Hello and welcome everyone once again to Boom 11. And we are going to be covering about the FIFA World Cup in Qatar 2022. Before I get to the match, obviously, I would like to introduce you guys once again to Boomer 11, the risk-free fantasy experience, which is available on Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Guys, Qatar has lost their first match to Ecuador, a comprehensive 2-0 loss. It was never Qatar never really, it never really was Qatar's game. It always seemed like Ecuador was on top of the game. Although towards the end of the second half, or maybe at the start of the first half, towards the first start of the first half, rather towards the end of the first half, and at the start of the second half, you kind of felt like Qatar was, being able to settle into that match. They were able to make some runs into the into the final third of Ecuador, but it never really translated to anything. Also, the first ever World Cup opening goal being a penalty. So this is an interesting World Cup already. I have with me Abel right here, and also Aisha is pretty excited about the jump. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Jungkook? I not a big BTS fan, but Abel, overall, how did the match progress? And it was Ecuador all over it, wasn't it?
Yeah, Jen, firstly, what a way to start off the World Cup because for me personally, it was not the best of starts because of the streaming issues which we are facing in our
Yeah.
part of the world, at least in the country where I'm staying in. The streaming issues were quite an issue where Geo cinemas, I'm going to absolutely call you out saying that they were really poor in their streaming. So I was finding it a little difficult to follow the match. But then um, to be talking about the game, it was a huge moment for Qatar. Regardless of the result, it was their maiden ever World Cup game. Of course, the pressure was on them. Home support was there. But I did mention, right, it was not going to be easy for both the teams because who's going to get that first goal is definitely going to feel a lot better. If it was Qatar who was going to get that first goal, they were going to feel a lot better. And remember, Ecuador kicked it off and Ecuador scored that goal in the third minute, though it was ruled out by VAR. But the momentum and the way in which Ecuador was attacking, they highly potent, especially moving through the right hand region where Peseiro was one of the key member. If you look at the attacking progress, and of course, this was one of the most clinical performance from Ecuador. We did expect them to be more attacking, especially coming up against Qatar. We did mention that, especially against teams who are slightly on the weaker side, expect Ecuador to play a lot more attacking game where they're going to be more. They're going to keep the ball a lot more, or else when they come up against teams who are more possession based, you expect Ecuador to sit back and attack on the counter. But today you really saw the attacking prowess of Ecuador, especially their wing backs progressing forward, their especially their number eights making those in behind runs, and the striker coming into the play very much. Ener Valencia, we did talk about him before the game as he was going to be one of the main man, and he did prove us right as well in terms of his ability to get into those positions. Him being a serious attacking threat up front was one of the major reasons why, which really helped Ecuador to open that Qatar defense up pretty much.
Absolutely, and let's talk about Valencia right here. He is definitely towards the end of the game. We did see him have a slight bit of injury concern there. He was
Yeah.
sitting in the dugout with an ice pack. But overall, what did you like about his performance? Because especially in the start itself, he got a goal which, as you mentioned, was ruled out by VAR. There was a lot of celebration before it was ruled out, wasn't it? But then to really keep going at it, make sure that it was them who dominated the match. How important was it that to not let go of momentum from that point in time when they grabbed hold of the match?
Yeah, to be honest, the way in which how they were progressed, especially their two midfielders in Mendes and Casero, they made sure that they were dominating it in that position because I thought who will dominate the midfield a lot more will win this game, especially the way in which it was an evenly balanced game at the start. You could never say Qatar was at least behind Ecuador at the start of the game or Ecuador was way ahead of Qatar because it was an evenly balanced game. Hence, the midfield had to come in handy for Qatar. They had all hopes on Abdulaziz Hatem, to be that controlling factor, as we did discuss earlier on in the pre-match review as well, how Hatem's role is going to be so vital for Qatar. But what you saw today was just the opposite. You saw how for the likes of Mendes and Casado, who I did mention once again, was going to be one of the major reasons why. Ecuador are one of the favorites in this game because Casado's form, even in Premier League, has been outstanding. The way in which he's been playing out there, he is coming off a good season. The form, as I keep telling there's no replacement for form, and the way in which he really did put up a show. I thought, especially up front as well, they were not creating enough chances. Look at the number of shots they had on target. I think it was literally zero shots on target at the end of the day, and that's not good enough. Especially if you look at if you want to start off your campaign pretty much on that note, 0-2. They had numerous number of shots, but they never tested the Ecuadorian keeper, which meant that they were
Yeah.
always behind the ball game. And once again, I keep telling the team who's going to take that extra bit of risk is always going to come in handy, and especially Ecuador. I have to again praise the likes of Hina Capi and also Preciado. Preciado was amazing today in terms of his ones, which he was making on the right hand side. Though Estupinian did not have the best of games on the left hand side, he was not the most attacking. That, as I kept telling, Estupinian might not attack. He will still play in the most defensive role. That's exactly what he did today. He did not have most of the attacking progression. It was Preciado who was making those attacking runs into the final third. Pinging the balls, and especially the second goal. It was a wonderful header by Enel Valencia. It was just Enel Valencia's brilliance. And even if you talk about the first goal, well, through ball was played by Casillado, split open the defense, and then goalkeeper had no option to do other than to bring him down. He had to try his luck, and it just not worked for him. But yeah, time and time again, they were much more attacking in terms of them opening up the Qatar through central regions. I think that's going to be an issue, and even on wider areas, especially where someone like I think it was if I'm not wrong, it was Homan, that's his name. Homam, if I'm not wrong, that was his name. Who was playing as a left back for Qatar. He possibly had not the best game as well in terms of the way in which he was losing the ball time and time again. Even in left half space, Abdul Aziz had possibly one of the worst games I've seen him have in terms of him not able to control the position of the ball. He was losing the ball time and time again. Then even Al Haidos as well. Haidos has had an awful game in terms of the way in which he couldn't control the ball. Because if Qatar had to do well, their midfielders, especially like Haidos and Abdulaziz, had to step up in half spaces. They were losing the ball, and they were losing the ball in regions where maybe Estupinian could make the attacking runs, even Preciado could make those attacking runs. So that was a major issue. Abdulaziz lost balls on a couple of occasions in the final third for the Preciado, which made sure Ecuador were able to attack through the right hand region, and even Humam did not have a good game on the right hand side. Hence, those balls, especially coming in, Kuke did not have a good game. I thought Abdul Karim Hassan had a decent game on the ball. He looked much more assured on the ball. He usually plays as a left back. I've seen him play as a left back on multiple occasions. Very surprised that he was deployed as a left center back in this game, and he had a decent game because he looked like one of the best players, and he was always one of their best players in terms of their attacking progressions as well. He was trying to control as a left center back as much as possible, but it was not good enough at the end of the day because midfield wise and attacking wise, they were not able to create enough penetration.
Let's talk about the possession stats from the match today, Bill. 61% of possession to Ecuador and only 39% to Qatar. I mean, in the first half, you would say that they were still doing better in terms of possession, at least Qatar, because Qatar had a possession of 46%, if I'm not wrong, which is a very decent share. So, I mean, and then what really happened in the second half? Because you felt like after that 63rd minute or so, Ecuador really started to realize that, this match is now theirs. And is that why they started holding on to the ball a lot more, not giving Qatar any opportunities, trying to just, pass the ball, keep possession of the ball, make sure they don't get enough chances? Was that the reason why? Or was Qatar really done by the end of that game?
I really thought Qatar did not press enough, especially after 60 minutes. I don't know what it was. They were not showing enough intent, especially to press their defenders and make those attacking runs and go in behind. Except Muntari in the 85th minute, he made an in behind run, and it was an attacking threat as well. He got a perfect ball in. He made an in behind run between the defense of Ecuador, and he got a perfect ball in, but he missed it. He had it over the bar. But other than that, time and time again, I just noticed one thing, that they've been falling apart in terms of the way in which they were unable to create chances, and not just that, in terms of them trying to trigger, in terms of pressing them on trigger moments. Is when I talk about pressing them on trigger moments, I thought after 55th minute or something, I really thought if they had to come back into the game, the only way was to press them deep, so that you can put some sort of pressure on their defensive line, which I thought would have still created Qatar a lot more chances, which they did not. Now let's look at the attacking runs, attacking threats, right? They were close to 100 149 attacks, in which there were 39% of dangerous attacks by Ecuador. And look at Qatar; they had 86% of attacks, 86 attacks, and 15 of them were only dangerous attacks. So it is not the most convincing performance by Qatar in terms of a lot of margin, in terms of ball possession, in terms of the way in which they were trying to play as well. They were very underconfident on the ball, which is unlike the Qatar which I've been seeing for the last 3 to 4 years. Especially when I can understand they were coming up against Asian teams where they were much more comfortable on the ball. But if I have to compare Japan with Ecuador, I would still say Japan is a lot more fluid team, and I've seen Qatar play against Japan a lot more times when they've been very confident on the ball, when they've been trying to progress through the left-hand region. As I keep saying, Abdul Karim has those tendencies to come in as a left back. Did not deploy him. They went with a more of a conservative approach where they played five at the back. Understandable opening game. They don't want to really concede, but it just not happened. And talking about Ecuador, I think the seventh consecutive game in which they have not conceded a goal, which is an exemplary stat to have in itself. Now, just talk about the Ecuadorian team, right? The way in which they've been having the defensive compactness behind, and that's so crucial for this team, because defensive compactness has been one of the major reasons why this team has really excelled over the last few months. And once again, Piero Hincapié had a terrific game once again. In the back, he did not let anything go behind him. And also, someone like a Torres gave him attacking support. And there were times in which Mendes did drop down to give them that defensive support as well. They didn't, midfielders did not really have to do a lot of dirty work today, because they were, Qatar were not trying to, play those balls through in, trying to split open the defense through the center region. Whatever they're trying to do, trying to play in those long balls, trying to maybe play on the second balls and get the attacking runs through to Akram Afif, which did not work today. And I think Ecuador was pretty much prepared for that. They knew physically Ecuador are much more stronger. They knew they were not going to go past it. Hence, the tactical approach of Qatar can be questioned today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely able, as you mentioned. I mean, even if you look at the shots, right? I mean, we did speak about it already, but if you look at the shots on that Qatar had and Ecuador only had one extra shot, but they converted three of them, hit the target. And to be fair, all three, I mean, the three of them that hit the target, two of them went in. But Qatar had five shots, and none of them were actually on target. So, how much important was the fact that Qatar never really, converted the chance? Because as I said, right, towards the end of that first half and the start of the second half, it looked like Qatar were coming back in this game in terms of
Yeah.
the tempo. They were able to make some runs in. But then,
Yeah.
why do you think they were not able to, convert the chances?
Firstly, as I keep telling, I thought their tactics of playing a long ball to Akram Afif and waiting for him to get that win it on a first ball on the second ball did not really work in this game, as I keep telling. And they were unable to create shots. They were unable to get inside the box. So the number of chances they created within the box in itself is very less in terms of the total game. Their shot accuracy in terms of them doing it also were very poor in terms, especially when it came to them having shots inside the box. But the distribution wise, I still think it was an even game in terms of distribution. I don't think it was, you could absolutely separate, but shots inside the box is another thing. Qatar had close to two shots inside the box, but they were unable to even put one, that one ball by testing the keeper. Zero shots on target. So that's the most dangerous thing over here, right? In terms of I think Ecuador at least they had 50% of shots on target, and they converted two of them. So that's where I personally they could have taken a lot more shots, especially someone like Akram Afif. They were waiting for the ball to be inside the box and then take that extra 2 seconds, which doesn't really work in a World Cup like situation. And when you're up against a quality South American nation. So that's why we talk about Asian teams and South American teams coming up against each other. I did not expect this from Qatar, because Qatar has been well drilled of a unit over the last 5 years. They've been able to win over quality Asian teams. They've been able to compete in South American against South American teams, especially playing in Copa America or even Gold Cup as well. It's just mainly because of the way in which they've been able to have that extra bit of decisiveness in terms of their decision making, in terms of how good they can be inside the box, the threats they can provide up through the wider region, especially inside the box. That was missing today. Especially something like Almoez, who's one of the prime striker, did not even come into the game, especially linking up with Akram Afif. Akram Afif was playing way on the wider region, which I was slightly surprised as well. At least I thought when Qatar was 2-0 down, they could have brought in Akram Afif through the central region, brought him as a more of an attacking threat, which did not happen. Akram Afif was again drifting wide. trying to create the chances for Almoez or Muntari when he came in. So slightly confused in terms of the way in which Felix Sanchez went in with this tactics in today's game. I think it'll improve as they will take a lot of learning from today's game.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about defensively as well. Abel, they had five defenders right at the back, but if you look at it overall, I mean, they did not look probably the most comfortable, you would say, in terms of defending. Because they had, I think, there were 10 tackles that the Qatar team made, while in opposition to which Ecuador made 15, which is not that different to be very honest. But where did it really go for a five-man defensive line that Qatar had? And also, is that a reason why when you have five defensive players of right at the back? Do you reckon that is the reason why their attack wasn't as strong as maybe Ecuador, because Ecuador looked to attack, make more runs in? But when you have five at the back system, it's always bound to hamper your aggressive or your attacking play.
Yeah, that is one thing which you can definitely point out in terms of the attacking play of Qatar. But when it came to the defensive areas, I thought they were super vulnerable, especially on their left hand region. Though there was Abdul Karim over there, but then the left back Humam was not good enough, especially in trying to prevent someone like a Preciado and them losing balls on left up spaces. Especially Abdul Aziz did lose possession in dangerous areas, especially right after the half line. They were losing it through the central region as well. They were losing the possession in important phases of play where Estupian was able to recover it, or even it was Preciado who was able to recover and make those runs, quick runs. And that transition which Ecuador had today was one of the dangerous things in which really put Qatar on the back. For the moment they were able to have their attacking progress and offensive progress was highly threatening for Ecuador because Qatar was losing the ball time and time, and the possessional play was very poor from Qatar, especially in terms of them losing the ball in spaces or in regions which could possibly have cost them the game, and then it did cost them the game ultimately. If you talk about the first goal where penalty was created, I thought they split open the defense through the central region as well, which really put them under so much of trouble. So what happened after the first goal was they tried to be more compact in terms of coming more compact, coming more narrow, so they thought they could
Hmm.
prevent that ball from going in, which opened the wider space. That's when Preciado used that wider region to ping the ball into to Enner Valencia, and he was positioned absolutely brilliantly. It was one of the best headers. I think it'll go down as one of the best headers of this World Cup as well. The way in which he was positioned, that ball which came in, I think Casero is the one who played it out wide, and from there Preciado just pinning it right in, and it was a beautiful goal, the second one. So that's where Qatar could have possibly. I kept telling before even the match started, the Ecuadorian threat is always going to be from the wider region, either from Estupinian or from the right back. It was Preciado today, and it did happen to be like that. Initially, they tried to cover the wider region, which opened up the central region, which Casero again exposed, and Mendes and Casero was able to play those balls in, but they did not have that. Especially having five at the back and opening up both through the central region and also through wider spaces, really put them vulnerable today.
Fair enough. But I mean, if you look at the overall stats, right? I mean, just a quick glance at the overall stats. 53 possession for Ecuador, 47 for Qatar, 486 passes opposed to 434 for Qatar, 486 for
Yeah.
Ecuador. Pass accuracy is also 84-80 percentage. So, to be very honest, I think, able for me at least, it really came down to the fact that, Qatar had five shots at goal. They couldn't hit anything on the target. They never really tested the Ecuadorian goalkeeper, as you mentioned. And on the other hand, Ecuadorian striker, especially Ine Valencia, got two goals past the goalkeeper, or at least had three shots on target. Is that where it really boils down to it, or is there more to the stats? I mean, more to it than just the stats.
I mean, to be honest, stats also speak a story, and that was perfect in terms of the way in which Iner Valencia was. I think if I get his heat map, you can know the kind of position he was getting into. The heat map of Iner Valencia will certainly say the positions in which he was getting into was certainly attacking ones. He was getting into positions perfectly so that even if uh, even if the number eight had to make an in behind run, that was really exposing Qatar's central line. I
Hmm.
thought they could have avoided it, especially by covering Inner Valencia a lot more, because it could have been anticipated that Inner Valencia was going to be the outlet who's going to play the ball, even to play the ball for in behind runs for Casero or Mendes, or even for an attacking threat for the ball coming in. Inner Valencia was going to be the player, but I thought Koki could have marked him a lot more better for that second goal. He was left he was left wondering something. I don't know what exactly was that. He was absolutely mind boggled as to what happened over there. He had no idea how did that ball come in, and everyone was shocked because that goal came out of nowhere. The ball was really perfect in terms of it just came in, and the header also had enough power in it to go past the keeper. So maybe they could have marked Enner Valencia a lot better. But once again, talking about it, in the move of marking Enner Valencia, what they would have possibly done is also that they would opened up space for a Casero to make those attacking runs. You know, with Casero, what he does is his box to box movements are so fine. His in behind anticipations are so good that he could have possibly. That's where maybe Enner Valencia's other style of game comes into play. He's also a very good holding player. If you watched him play, especially in the qualifiers, I was watching him play a little bit. You know, his anticipation in making those balls, holding the ball and passing it through, where Castillo makes those in behind runs, that was one of the highlights through the qualifiers as well. He could have possibly done it. Hence, Qatar was in two minds whether to go for NL Valencia or to stop that passing lane. They couldn't do both.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. So let's now look at the teams now from here where they head on. I mean, to their next matches. Now, let's start with Ecuador. Ecuador now faces Netherlands. Probably the toughest challenge in this group on 25th of November. 4 days gap. Do you reckon now? I mean, how much of a challenge are they going to put up against Netherlands? So is it going to be a simple win for Netherlands?
It all depends on tomorrow's game. Tomorrow's game is an important game in terms of how it's going to line up. Netherlands versus Senegal. I think we will preview it before the game, but the fact is that it's not going to be the easiest of games for both the sides, especially if you talk about Senegal and Netherlands.
Yeah.
And for Ecuador, they'll sit well on top of the group right now. They'll feel a lot more comfortable, especially getting this win under the belt. Now, if they get one more win either against Senegal and or either get a result, it could be a one-all draw at least against Netherlands. They'll believe they're almost through to the knockouts, and that's something which will really help in this World Cup as well. First win, kept a clean sheet, so important to do that. And Valencia looking
Yeah.
in good form. I hope he's fit enough to play the next match. I think he will be. It was. I felt it was a precautionary measure to take him off. Initially, also he had a blow there where he went off the pitch
Correct.
for a few minutes and he came back in.
Right at the
But
end of
now,
the half. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I personally believe at this point of time. They wouldn't want to risk an injury. I know, and they have Estarada as well, but when it comes to Enner Valencia, he is attacking threat in itself. The way in which he had terrific qualifiers. I'll pull up the stats once again in terms of his qualifiers. He was outstanding in qualifiers, right? I thought he was one of the best players. Sorry, this is the Dutch team. But when it comes to his qualifiers, I thought he was one of the best players once again, and there were situations where I personally felt maybe Enel Valencia should have been taken off after the halftime, not to aggravate that injury because I didn't know how deep was the injury. You were 2-0 up, you still
Mhm.
had an option to take him off, maybe sit back and wait for things to go better. Now, if you look at the World Cup qualifiers for uh, Ecuador, you could see the impact of Ener Valencia in that team. 4 goals there, combining with
Yeah.
Estrada also had a very good qualifying stage. But Ener Valencia, not just with his goal scoring ability, also the way in which he creates chances, especially for the number eights to run in behind, or even your wingers to cut in behind, especially someone like an Ibarra and Ener Valencia have been linking up pretty well through the course of the World Cup qualifiers, where Ibarra cuts in and he plays a ball right into it. So their fluidity is one of the reasons why I think they will miss Ener Valencia if he's going to be ruled out for a game or two, or even from the World Cup. So that's something which Ecuadorian fans wouldn't want to hear at this point. All If everything goes well, he should be fit for the Netherlands game, and this win at least should give them a lot more confidence. And if Netherlands has a scratchy day tomorrow, it's gonna be an important game for both the teams. Then from there.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. What about Qatar? I mean, Qatar has become the first ever host to lose their opening match. Not the best of starts, obviously, because it did seem like they're a bit nervy. And but now they're going to face Senegal without Sadio Mane. How much do you think that helps Qatar? Do you think Qatar has any chance now? That if probably this was the one game that we would have all hoped, or at least Qatari fans would have hoped that Qatar would have gone on and won it. But now against
Yeah.
Senegal, the challenge is going to be much steeper. But without Sadio Mane, do you think Senegal will face a little bit of an issue when when they face Qatar?
Uh, yes, but then if you talk about the quality of the Senegal team, it's far more superior than the Ecuadorian team in terms of individual ability. Now, if you talk about the Ecuadorian team, they are good. They've been playing some impressive football. They've not conceded. Senegal team, African champions, but the kind of football, the kind of individual quality they have, Koulibaly, the Kouyaté, they have Ismail Sarr, Edouard Mendy in the goal. Uh, in terms of
Yeah.
individual ability, I think Senegal team is far more superior than the Qatarian team. It's going to be a heavy challenge for them. Today's win was so important for them to get the tournament underway, or at least a result. A 1-1 draw would have really done them the world of good. But then now the real tournament, now it's going to be a real uphill task for them to get results against Netherlands and also Senegal. But you know, it's about the World Cup. You never know. Anything can happen. It's two more games, but then it runs out pretty quickly as well. One loss in itself is a massive, massive blow, which can really hamper your chances of qualifying into the next round. But it's you have to give leeway to them. It's their maiden ever World Cup, and that too playing at home in front of the fans. Possibly should have given them that advantage, but then they came up against a they came up against a very strong force of an Ecuadorian team who I was very impressed even during the qualifiers, where I kept telling the performance which they put up against Argentina was outstanding. The way in which they've not conceded in the last 7 games, it's an exemplary stat, and they're playing against some really good
Yeah.
opposition. Let's mind that they're not playing against some. They're not playing against low quality, low tier teams. They're playing against good teams. They won games and not conceded. They've not lost a game in last 7 games, which means they've been in very good run of form. Though they've got majority of the games as draws, where it was major in 9-0 draws, but they're not conceded as well. You don't lose a game when you don't concede. It's a it's a age old saying in football, isn't it? You don't lose unless you concede. So that defensive compactness of Hencape has been outstanding. That and especially the wing backs as well, to drop in and to also also provide them with the attacking ability. Uh, a good team. I think they are well on course in terms of the progression, but for Qatar, on the flip side, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. They will need to score goals. They need to find outlets in which they can absolutely threaten the Dutch defense and also the Senegalese defense. Senegalese defense is one of the best out there as well in terms of their ability. Koulibaly is not an easy player to pass. So interesting days ahead for Qatar, but the next game is going to be so important against Senegal.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's look at tomorrow's matches then. Abel, when now that we are heading into this, the World Cup madness, as they would say. So we're gonna have the introduction of Group B, where England are gonna face off Iran, and then the second half of Group A, Senegal are going to face Netherlands. Possibly in Group A, let's start with that. Netherlands and Senegal is going to be the decider, the decider of who's going to end up top of the group.
Wow, it's tough, man. It's very tough. I mean, in terms of, I think Netherlands for the Senegal game is going to be very important in terms of this group. But when it comes to Group B, there are two matches tomorrow. USA versus Wales as well later tomorrow. I think it starts at 12:30 a.m. the Indian time, and local time, I think it is 10 p.m. local time. So
Yeah. So
that is a very important game.
that starts on 22nd early hours. But yeah, definitely.
I think, yeah, I'll just count it as tomorrow's, because only in India
Yeah.
it is the next day. I was just thinking
Yeah.
it's a triple header tomorrow, as we tell it in cricketing terms. But then the fact is that I think the first game, Iran versus England, is going to be the game. It's going to be a tricky game for England. Not the easiest of group. It's a very tricky group. The current form in which they've been heading into this World Cup is a concern for English team. Though
Yeah.
they've got some really informed players, but the fact is that as a team, they've not really put up. After Euros 2021, they've really both the teams who played the final have really had tough times. England got relegated in the Nations League. Italy did not even make it to the World Cup. So not the ideal
Yeah.
way for the two were the best teams of Euros last time. But once again, I keep telling this English team has got something running about them, especially when they come together in big tournaments. And I think they'll pull up their
Mm.
socks. The individual quality in that team is too good for them not to win against Iran.
Yeah. And what about Senegal and Netherlands?
I mean, Netherlands are the strong favorites. Yesterday during the analysis as well, I kept telling Netherlands are one of the
Yeah.
contenders for this World Cup indeed. Especially when it comes to especially when it comes to their way in which they are playing good football, their form, the players they have. I think they will have a challenge against Senegal. It's not going to be easy, but I still believe it's going to be Netherlands who will have the upper hand against Senegal, and they will possibly pick up those points.
All right, fair enough then. Well, that'll be pretty much it from us on this end right now. Obviously, I think tomorrow, right after all of the, we'll probably be coming to you guys before the matches. We will be covering the matches before, and then obviously right after all three matches are over, we will come and cover each and every match in depth. Yeah, I think I'll agree with Sean as well. Shambolic is probably the best way to describe Qatar's performance. Aisha, I think, is still stuck on Jungkook's performance. I hope I'm saying his
Yeah.
name right, because I'm really
Yeah,
afraid the BTS
I'm
approval
pretty
picture.
shocked. Any idea why BTS did not come with the entire band and only Jungkook performed? Is that they were serving the army or something? Is that the news? I'm not sure
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
they're part of. I don't know. I mean, no idea on
It's
that.
like Ecuadorians,
Probably. Maybe
genuine.
Lucas. Maybe Sean. They. Maybe it's the Football Association of Ecuador. After all.
At least I'm happy about this result. We
Yeah.
can throw those speculations out of the window. It's so important for the World Cup to have this result in terms of good things. At least, otherwise,
I think it
again,
really
another
helps.
speculation would have.
To some extent, it helps Infantino as well. Who, by the way, guys, you should check out his speech yesterday. We have a few lot of revelations on
Did he just say
Infantino
that
and
he's a migrant worker? What else did he say? He's
yeah,
disabled. It
he's
was
an
just
Arab.
it didn't make any sense for
He's an
me.
Arab. He's an African. He's a migrant worker. He's oh, there's a long list table, long list. But yeah, it's just all one of the oddities of this World Cup. Huh?
Yeah, I
But
was very, very shocked by his speech, personally speaking, because the way in which he was trying to make these claims, I don't know, he was trying to save the face of FIFA. But nonetheless, uh,
it did come a little passive aggressive as well. I felt, it was too strong a message to come from the FIFA head. I can understand the media is going after FIFA a lot, especially the Western media. But I think it's below the station of a FIFA, chairman to be that strong in the messaging. I can understand if he supports, but yesterday the kind of statements he made were too strong and too vocal, I would say. It was not fit for me, at least in what I feel, in my opinion. It was not fit for yeah, Matthias Willis just says that he wants to buy in Ene Valencia on ultimate team. Maybe you might be able to know the better dynamics of things. How would that work out?
I
Maybe we'll
think
have
his
a
inform
FIFA
player
side of
card will
him.
definitely release by the end of the week. I think his World Cup card is already going to be out in terms of that you can play World Cup on Ultimate Team as well. For the people who are playing Ultimate Team, I think you'll already be knowing that. So I think his inform player card, possibly the team of the week. I think he's going to be there, or team of the month. He's definitely going to make it. Even if he's already the top scorer of the World Cup, there's nobody who has scored, and he's already gone. He's ahead with 2 goals. And if he pins in 2 more goals, or if he pins in one or 2 more goals, he's going to have a very good World Cup. And he's 32 years old. I don't think usually what happens is the players who do extremely well in the World Cup gets the eyeballs of those big European
Clubs
clubs,
as well.
and you
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen. But impressive first performance to start off with. Like last year in the opener, you saw Sherry Shave have a impressive game against Saudi Arabia. Something very similar, which Iner Valencia had. He was impressive. He's a skipper of the team as well. A captain like performance leading the line. Um, Extremely good performance in terms of everything. He ticked almost every box. I first second thought it was Antonio Valencia. Yeah, I mean Antonio Valencia is too old to be playing right now, but yeah, a legend of Ecuadorian football once again. He used to be one of the fastest wing backs for them for the longest period of time. But then I think in his role today, Presidio was playing and he did a very good job. I think Antonio Valencia himself will be very
Yeah.
proud.
Well, that's pretty much it from our end. Then, thank you guys for joining us. A little short today because there was only one match to talk about. But tomorrow we're going to be covering three matches, the important matches in Group, and the most important match probably in Group A, and then the whole of Group B. By the end of tomorrow, we will know who are the table toppers of Group A and B in the first round of fixtures. But thank you so much again for joining us, guys. We will be back tomorrow, and we will be on this journey with you in the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. And do not forget to download Boom 11, the risk-free fantasy experience on Apple App Store and Google Play. Thank you, Abel, for joining us. Thank you guys once again, and we'll be back tomorrow or
Bye
today,
bye, guys.
rather.
Have a good
If
time.
you're in India. Yeah.